Hi everyone, hope you're all good. Welcome to my little Zwift recap of my race from earlier today in the Zwift Racing League around Neon Flats. It's a point race with 8 sprints around the course. I have to be honest, this was not my best performance for technical reasons, which we'll get to. So that was a really frustrating and gutting way to sort of end this race, but nevertheless, I sort of managed to get some, or I would have got some pretty decent points had I managed to finish without those technical issues. But that's kind of part of Zwift racing and something we all have to kind of deal with to some extent. It's just frustrating that it happened during this particular race because I was feeling pretty good. I was really motivated to get some decent points and get some solid first across the line and fastest 3 points for the team, and hopefully get our team up to top place in the race results. But nevertheless, this is how it goes sometimes, and we just have to try and get back out there and race again. We're not too far away from the first sprint. I was kind of hoping the pace would be relatively easy going to the first sprint, but actually a few riders sort of tried to go long on this first sprint. I'm not entirely sure what the thought process or the tactic was there, but I guess maybe they thought they could catch the group off guard a little bit. But yeah, no one was really going to let that happen at this point. Everyone had relatively fresh legs. But that does mean that the lead into the sprint isn't quite as relaxed as I thought it would be, and I'm actually sort of fighting to get up to the top half of the group. Having sort of done a recon, I know I'm going to launch my sprint at this zebra crossing, so I start opening up and trying to sprint through the pack as quickly as I can, but I think I leave it a little bit, sorry, not necessarily leave it, but I start a little bit too late in the group, so by the time I'm hitting max speed, I still got a few places to get through to get to that top 10. I'm just outside the top 10 when we go through the line, which is a bit frustrating, but I do manage to set what would be the fourth fastest time through that segment, and even though the points don't count, yeah, it's frustrating, but at least that's something I can be sort of relatively proud of. And overall, some decent first across the line points for the other riders in my team on that sprint. Having just done that sprint, it was quite, although it was only sort of 18 seconds for the actual sprint segment, starting the sprint a good sort of 2-3 seconds before going through that line, it ends up being a 20-second plus sprint, so quite a long sprint. At this point, I just want to recover, save my legs as much as possible because there's still a lot of sprinting to do. I'm going to need those legs to be as fresh as possible at every sprint if I want to have a chance of getting some points, because there's some quite strong sprinters in this field. Team NL have got their absolute sprint machine. Adrian, who's been absolutely smashing it in the last few points races. Team Talent Frei, they have also got a couple of absolute sprint monsters in their team. So yeah, it's not going to be easy to get decent points at every sprint if your legs are suffering. But the pace is actually quite hard. I was hoping it would be sort of similar to last week, where it'd be sort of zone 2 pace in between each sprint, but it's more like sort of tempo to sort of low threshold, general sort of zone 3 sort of pace, which is a bit harder than I was sort of expecting, but I guess it is a shorter race, so it kind of makes sense. And I think also a few riders are a little bit cautious of people jumping clear using the ghost power up, so keeping the pace relatively high isn't necessarily a bad thing, just stops people trying to launch an attack, or if they do launch an attack, they're going to have to go really hard. So I'm just sort of paying attention to the distance and trying to hold a decent position in the middle of the pack. The next sprint, comes around 5.7 kilometers, but there's a we take a bit of a bypass and go up a ramp into the next sprint. So I just want to be vigilant of how the group takes that ramp before the sprint. Do they go hard? Do they just go easy over it? And we're just coming over it now. So I'm a little bit far back, so I do put in a bit of a dig just to move myself up, but I don't want to hit the front at this point. I want to wait until we start coming on the decline to start my sprint, so I can actually gather as much speed as I can on this downhill section, because there is quite a long downhill. I'm across the sprint line now. There is quite a long downhill before it flattens off into the actual sprint banner. So I'm using my draft boost, although there's not all that many people to draft it from, but as you can see from the source for Zwift data, I've got like 500% boost draft, so that's pretty good. And I managed sort of third across the line there and sixth fastest, and a load of teammates as well around me, so that was a really good really good sprint for our team. Sixth fastest through on that particular lap. I think overall it was let's see, yeah, sixth fastest, and we actually got 4 riders from our team in the fastest through, which is really strong. Really great result by some of my teammates there, and another 3 riders in the top 4 on first across the line on that lap. So that was another great sprint for our team. So really well done by the rest of my teammates. They did an absolutely awesome job in this race. And yeah, I think our result at the end really shows that we're a team of solid B riders, top B riders across the whole team. It's not just sort of one rider getting all the points. So it's a bit unfortunate that we didn't have the segment battle points, because I reckon we would have done pretty well in that regard. But you know, hopefully maybe next Zwift Racing League round they'll be able to get it sorted. But I'm not necessarily holding my breath for that one. We're just coming towards now the Castle Park sprint. It's quite a hard lead into that one. Again, not much chance to recover. I'm just trying to catch my breath, as you kind of hear from the mic. And I know that I want to use this downhill again and sprint as hard as I can at this point. I've got an aero boost, so I want to make the most of that. I activate it actually just before the start of the sprint, because it's only a sort of 12-second sprint, so it's going to last me the whole sprint. And yeah, just trying to go as hard as I can for as long as I can. I think I get 4th or 5th across the line, and I end up getting, what did I get the fastest through on that one? Got 5th across the line and 4th fastest that time through. So at this point, yeah, we've done 3 sprints, 1 more for the lap. I'm feeling quite confident, quite good at this point. My legs are feeling it a bit. There's not been much chance to recover. The pace has been going a fair amount quicker than I thought it would have done through in between each sprint, so I haven't had much chance to recover. But at the same time, the points I'm grabbing at the sprint are giving me a lot of encouragement and confidence. So for this next sprint, I'm thinking actually I've got a decent chance of grabbing some more fastest through points. This is probably the sort of second fastest we'll go through the country park sprint. So if I get it right, I can probably grab maybe a couple more fastest through points. And quite often with the Zwift Racing League, just getting a couple of extra points can make a big difference to the overall team's results. So in the back of my mind, I'm just really thinking, right, let's make the most of this pace that we're going to have going into the sprint. It's probably going to be that pace going into the sprint is going to give me a chance of getting some another set of fastest through points. it's a bit more relaxed than the previous sprint, the sort of lead into this one. A bit more how I was expecting the other sprints, the sort of recovery in between each sprint to be, which is nice. So yeah, I'm just trying to recover, sit as near the back as possible at this point, and then wait for that moment to basically move up through the group. A few riders try and launch an attack, but it's all a little bit in vain. We kind of let them, no one panics too much. Actually, one of our riders is in the group up the road, so my team are quite happy to see them go. But with the pace that we'll carry through the sprint, it's unlikely they're going to get any points. Again, this sort of slightly lumpy lead-in does sort of strain the legs a little bit just before the sprint, which means just makes it hard to get that initial snap that you ideally want. But I'm not too worried about this little group. We catch up to them before the sprint. I think they take the foot off the gas once they see us coming. I mean, it's a valiant effort, to be fair, but yeah, it was always going to be a difficult move to pull off. Heading back into the sprint, I've got an aero boost again, which is ideal for this particular sprint, I think. And I go as hard as fast as I can for as long as possible. Really, really pushing this time to push all the way to the line, because I know there's a possibility of some fastest through. And grab first across the line, second place, which is another big points score, and actually end up getting the 10th fastest for the race on that particular time through the country park sprint. So again, only an extra 1 point, but you never know, that could make the difference between overall position in the actual team results. So yeah, I think I was only the second person, or there was only 2 people that actually got 2 sets of fastest 3 points on that particular segment. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that result. At this point, again, I'm just thinking, right, I hope the pace eases a little bit, because it's been pretty relentless throughout this race so far. No one's really taken it super easy. We're all sort of hovering in the sort of tempo zone 3 in between sprints, so I'm just kind of hoping we go a little bit easier at this point, whilst we have probably the longest distance to cover in between each sprint. Little did I know about the technical issues I was going to experience later on in this race. At this point, I was feeling really good. I was obviously feeling a little bit of the effects from the sprint, but I was also really confident with the points I got that I could, replicate that, at least first across the line points anyway on lap 2, and was kind of looking forward to lap 2 and seeing what I could do and seeing what points I could get for the team. I knew the team had been doing really well as well. I'd seen quite a few of my teammates up there in the first across the line and on the timings on the leaderboards. So that was really encouraging as well, to see our team sort of getting consistent points across a lot of, almost all of the sprints so far. And this is where things start to go wrong for me. As you can see, this is the most intense part of the Neocchio course. Things are a little bit sort of laggy. May not be able to see it on this screen, but I could feel it when I was racing. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I get my Zwift basically crashes, and yeah, I'm just like, what is going on? Why does this happen? I was going so well, really could have got a lot of points. I make some rather pathetic attempts to try and fix it, knowing that in all honesty that's not going to work, because the whole game's sort of closed, and therefore even if I reopen it, I'm not going to end up back in the race or anything like that. So yeah, that was really really disappointing and frustrating. I mean, I think I do a relatively decent job of controlling my emotions, but I was sort of ready to try and basically punch the wall at that point, um, because I knew, yeah, I had a decent number of points in the bag, which now my team aren't going to get, and also had the possibility of scoring even more points, which is now eluded me simply because the game crashed. And actually, it wasn't Zwift's fault at all. It was completely something on my end, which I'm hoping to fix. Um, so yeah, hopefully that won't happen again. But yeah, these are the sort of things that can end up happening in a Zwift race. In the real world, you deal with different issues, different technicals. This is basically equivalent of me sort of crashing out of a real race, but nevertheless, the team actually did an excellent job for the rest of the race. Like, I know, even though they didn't have the points that I got included in the race result, they still managed to get third place with some absolutely top performances by some of our riders. Andy Todd getting 70 points, Anders again pulling out 41 points, repeating some strong efforts after his third place in the Innsbruck race. Grant managing to get his trainer fixed. He's not been able to race the last few weeks due to trainer issues. So although he got his trainer fixed, I now have problems. So it seems like it's going to be someone else's turn next week. We'll just have to wait and see who that is. But Grant coming back, getting 46 points. So yeah, 4 riders. Paul with a great finish. He's not necessarily a sprinter, but got some first across the line points and some top finishing points. So yeah, 4 riders all scoring 30 plus points, plus one rider scoring 70 points. And Cole, he's not a sprinter. He's going to be really handy in the TTT next week. So that's where he'll be really helpful for the team, but still getting 10 points as well. So yeah, strength and depth in the team is where we seem to be. That seems to be our sort of where we have an advantage. So good to see us using it to effect when a couple of riders sort of misfire. So yeah, getting third in that race was a top result. But yeah, these 2 teams at the top absolutely smashed it. Team NL, Adrian, 180 points. I don't think that's ridiculous. I mean, he is a very strong sprinter, so that doesn't necessarily surprise me, but still, that's super impressive. So yeah, hats off to you, mate. Chapeau. Again, Tanit Frei with some strong points as well. 3 riders with over 50 points. So it's going to be hard for us to compete with those scores. But yeah, if I had maybe not had my issues, these are all ifs and buts, so it doesn't really mean anything. But who knows? Probably maybe could have got that second place. But still, team did a fantastic job to get third overall. And in the league table, we still hold on to second place. So yeah, still in the run up for promotion, which would be back-to-back promotions, but still, it's not. There's still a few races left, so there's no point getting too excited at this point. There's a lot of racing still to come, and it can all change, in one race. So yeah, a bit gutted for my own performance, but really happy with the way the team performed. Again, looking forward to the next team time trial, and gives me some encouragement, or at least some motivation, to try and redeem myself from this performance in the next points race. Thanks very much, guys, for watching. I know it's not exactly the full race recap, but yeah,